Purdue gets a big time road win over Iowa, continuing their win streak in a pretty stress free game at Iowa. We're going to break down everything that you need to know right here on Boilers in the Stands. Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. Alongside me, as always, is my co host, Kraig Bowers. Today, Purdue, their Valentine's Day gift to us was a pretty much stress free win, a 21-point win, 78-57 over Iowa, extending their win streak now to 4 and also picking up 3 of those on the road. One of them was Maryland, but still 3 of the 4 coming on the road. And we'll talk about all the Iowa stuff. We'll have a Michigan preview out tomorrow because obviously that's where the attention is going to very quickly turn. A 3-game homestand of Michigan, Indiana, Michigan State, but Purdue took care of business after the 3-game losing streak. You kind of just had, if you could get through all 4 of the next games without a loss, it sets you up much better for this homestand. But it was just more than anything, just great to see Purdue just look like Purdue once again. And we'll dive into everything. Kraig was there at Carver-Hawkeye Arena. There we go. In Iowa. So, Kraig, I'll throw it to you. I guess I know this was your first time there. I've never been there. I know the atmosphere is much better this year compared to previous seasons. I guess how is the atmosphere and all that, even if with it being a blowout, and then also just your thoughts from the game.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, this may be the best Valentine present that I've gotten, which I don't know if that says more about me or says more about Purdue basketball, but either way, I'll take it. Just a really nice, like you said, stress-free type of win out here. The atmosphere was great early on in the first half before things kind of started to get pushed out by Purdue. Atmosphere was really good. The crowds were really into it. It was sold out. There was a decent amount of Purdue fans here. It wasn't anywhere close to a Purdue takeover, like we've seen at some of these other arenas, but definitely there was still a Purdue contingency here, and you could hear the "Whose House, Our House" chant towards the end of this game out here. It's a really unique arena because it's the first one I've ever built or went to where it's built into the ground. So you walk in, at concourse level, and then the entire arena is sloping down from there. So pretty cool, just visuals. Enjoyed our time here. All the Iowa people have been great in terms of their, athletic staff that are behind the scenes that work with all the media people and everything. So no, it's been great, and looking forward to having a good night yet when this is over. Rode out here with Casey Bartley. If anybody was following me on Twitter, Casey was awake for all of about 1 hour of the 5-hour trip. So basically drove out by myself, but I'm gonna make him drive some of the way back tomorrow.
There you go. Yeah, definitely got to get it back from him. So, great to hear that the atmosphere was pretty good. Shout out Ben McCollum for. I know it hasn't been a good stretch for Iowa the last week, but you can definitely see the signs there that this Iowa program is going to become something under him. So, shout out him. But more importantly for this show, shout out pretty much the entire Purdue roster. We'll go through all of the breakdowns of the players in that, but everybody scores at least 4 points on this team. Nobody scores more than 14 points. Purdue, after a little bit of a slow start on the glass, turns it around quickly, dominates. TKR with a double-double, Braden with 12 assists. Purdue knocks down 12 threes total, with 7 of them being between CJ and Jakari. So just a really good overall effort. I thought the defensive effort, I guess my takeaway was, I don't think the offense was awesome today. I thought it was good. The numbers show it was really good, and part of that is limiting turnovers and getting offensive rebounds. I think more of just the flow and things like that wasn't the best it's been, but still good enough. But it was the defense to me. And yes, Iowa missed some shots that they would love to make, but I do think, to me, really in large parts of the game, it felt like Purdue was at least making them tougher shots. And again, yes, I know Iowa misses a couple 4-foot float shots, and they missed a couple open threes. But even that felt really about it. And even those float shots, right? It's not pure layups at the rim. You have to have a little bit of touch. I thought for 90 to 95% of this game, the Purdue defensive rotations were great. I'll break it down on the board probably in a little bit because I thought that they were very good. I thought they were the crispest they've been in maybe this entire season. Maybe since Purdue went on that defensive run kind of last like last January, like 2025 January. So that's where I kind of wanted to start. Is I understand Iowa missed some shots, and if you talk to Iowa fans, they're probably just saying, "Hey, you make those, and this is a completely different ball game," and there's maybe some validity to that. But at the same time, I do think Purdue did a very good job of just like making life more difficult on Iowa. I mean, Sturts himself, he ends up with 19, with 12 of those points being in the second half, and it felt like probably 8 or 10 of those kind of came when the game was out of reach. Jakari had a big game. We'll talk about him. I thought his stretch really just kind of opened everything up for Purdue. So just a really good overall win. Now you got a quick turnaround against Michigan, but I think it was good that for the most part, it seemed like everybody kind of came out very focused for this one. I know Painter, you posted about how like Painter was saying this was like the most important game of the season so far, and if you were to ask that off the record, I'm sure Painter probably wouldn't say that, but I do think it was some part of like more of just like you cannot overlook this game. Like yes, the big stretch is coming up, but this is, I mean, I was top 25 Ken Palm. I think they're top 25 in Torvik. They're 34th in wins above bubble. So like they're still a very good team and a very big win on the road. Yeah, it was just good. It was good to just not be stressed for a Purdue game. Like maybe there was like the slightest bit with like 5 minutes left when Iowa cuts it to like 15. Even then, it's more just like just get like a bucket or stop and it's fine. And Purdue ends up doing that. So I'll throw it back to you, Craig, wherever you kind of want to riff to off of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think to Painter's point of just like this is what he was saying, this is the most important game of the year. It's to this point. It doesn't mean for the rest of the season, because there's going to be more important games that are coming up. But you're going into this stretch of Michigan, then IU, Michigan State. That's incredibly, incredibly difficult. And there's, a decent chance Purdue may come out with an L at one of those. So you have to take care of business in this one. And this is a quad 1A win, right? Top 40 in net teams on the road qualify as a quad 1A win. And I think Iowa was 26 coming into this one. So this is a big, big time win, even though we've kind of talked about Iowa being a little bit of a paper tiger in terms of like being an analytical darling and maybe not actually passing the eye test to the same level. It's still a really, really important win. I'm really glad you started with defense, and I'm going to stop you on the whole like maybe it was their best defensive performance because I think it, well, like 100% in my mind was their best defensive performance. I don't know if the efficiency numbers at Ken Palm or whatever are going to bear that out, but to me, to your point, like I thought they were by far and away the crispest in their rotations in terms of their communication together. There were very few breakdowns. Now, like you said, Iowa did miss some open threes, but I thought there were much fewer of those. Felt like Purdue was getting out and contesting. Their rotations were faster. The job that CJ and Jakari did on Sturts in the first half, really, he kind of got loose on a couple of transitions. Braden let him go towards right there at the end of the first half. He had him. He was trailing him on a cut, and then he just kind of like let him go. And he got loose for an and one there. I think he had a transition one either a little bit before or after that off of a turnover. But I mean, just really did not get going in that first half at all. And the other big story to me in this one, Joe, and I think there's a couple others that I want to get to before we kind of move on. But the other big story to me that jumps out first is just like the others. And all I mean by that is everybody who's not named one of the big three, right? Hold on one second here, because when we talk about those guys, and we'll break them down a little bit more individually here in a minute, but if we look at those guys combined in this one, CJ, Jakari, Benner, and Meyer went 10 of 23 from three, combined for 39 total points, 8 rebounds, and 4 steals. And there was a point in this game where those 4 guys, I think, and Jacobsen, throwing Jacobsen in there in the first half when he was kind of getting some points, accounted for like 75% of the team's points at one point in this game when they were at like 50 something or whatever. So I think the quote others in this one is a huge story. Jakari and CJ getting back on track from 3-point shooting. Benner to a small day. I mean, Benner and Meyer both shot decent percentages in this game as well from outside. So 39 total points, 8 rebounds, 4 steals from those guys. I just thought they were really, really impressive in this one.
Yeah, I mean, even in the first half, 36 total points for Purdue, 21 of them came off the bench. And they were distributed between Jacobsen, Meyer, and Jakari. But this was a game where we'll talk about Braden in a bit. I thought his second half was much, much better than his first half. Um,
Yeah.
but in a game where Braden, I just didn't have it in the first half. I don't know what it is with Iowa and him and not just being there in the first half. This is like when we were talking all off season, this was the type of game where I was like, is what gave me so much confidence within Purdue of like Brain's going to be incredible 95% of the games. TKR is going to be incredible 90% of the games. Like we know they're going to do that. But there is going to be this 10% or whatever type of all right, somebody's got to figure it out and there's just the depth show today where Jacobsen, right, he ends the game with 6 points and 4 rebounds, 3 blocks. And I honestly thought he played better than even what his stat line showed. Jakari gets 14 points. CJ gets hot to start the second half. Like, Benner Meyer, I thought also contributed. Like, there's just the depth that really hasn't been there for Purdue in a bit, I would say. Uh, but this was one of those games where it's like, okay, yeah, even if maybe the big three don't have like superstar type performances, and at the end of the day, their box scores are still pretty good. There's just enough talent across the board on this roster to be able to get things done, and it helps also when we bring it back to the defense. When hey, everybody's going to defend well, good things are probably going to happen at that point as well. So, just a good. I mean, I'll say it probably like 25 more times. Just a good overall win for Purdue in this one.
Yeah. And the last thing I really want to hit on is like I thought Trey just set the tone out of the gate. I mean, he was just aggressive, rebounding the ball. The way they were defending, it wasn't going to be a real high scoring first half for Trey. But I thought once again he made the right plays, but his aggression on the glass, and it was like Trey was going early. Everybody else was a little slow coming out of the gates in terms of rebounding, in my mind, because I think Iowa was up like 5-3, 6-4, something like that, and rebounding after
Yep.
like 5 or 6 minutes in this one. And then like I just thought Trey's energy bled over to everybody else. And then, he collects 11 rebounds in that first half. And just his ability to be like, I'm going to impact winning in this game even if I'm not scoring. That refocus these last couple of games to be able to do that and just assert his physicality. And I don't think he picks up his first foul in this game until like a little like 4 minutes and something to go in the game, if I remember right. Like it was really late in the game. So did it without fouling too. I just thought that was so important in this one.
Yeah, it definitely was, and I think that's a very good point to bring up. Where, yeah, after the first few minutes, it was just kind of like, all right, why is Iowa kind of getting these boards now? The one goes off of I think it was TKR and Clough's hands off the free throw, where it's just one of those things that just
Yeah.
happens. But yeah, I mean TKR ends up with 11 boards in the first half and it did set the tone. And we'll talk about the full stats in a minute, but like it probably wasn't as big of a rebounding margin as I probably expected. Uh, but it still was a win. When you combine that with limiting turnovers, like it makes it tough for this Iowa defense to really consistently slow down Purdue. Um, so I think that is a very good call out there. We can get into some of the rotations and stats and things, unless there is something else you kind of want to hit on first.
No, let's get into it.
I'll throw the rotations up here. Nothing really to talk about, I would say. Um, I guess on a personal note, if you look at the Purdue margin, I color coded based on lineup now to try to make it a little bit easier, so you can see kind of what minutes the margin was spread over. The only thing I think is worth calling out is Braden gets pulled 6 minutes in. I don't recall that
Yeah.
happening at all this season, or if he did, it was because of foul trouble. This was a very deliberate, like you're coming out of the game. Honestly, like truly, when I saw he was out, I was just like immediately scanning the bench to see like, okay, did he go to the locker room? Like, is he hurt? Like, what's going on here? Because that's just not what the rotation's been. I do think it was a little bit of just trying to kind of wake him up a bit more than anything, or probably Painter just didn't see something he liked. That's the only real thing I got in terms of the rotation though for this one. I don't know if you have anything.
Now I made a note of that too when Smith went out because sometimes you'll see him if Fletch is hot, you'll see him maybe pull Smith first and leave Fletch in just to see if it keeps rolling there. I think at that point in time, was Jakari in the game when he got pulled the first time?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously Jakari was going, but at the same time, it very much felt like to me of like, let's just, control alt delete here, Braden. Let's control alt delete this. Let you sit down for a couple of minutes and see if you can kind of get rolling again. And then in that first half, yeah. So I guess he was in from 12 to 5. I thought it was a little bit shorter than that, but even getting pulled again right at that 4 minute mark felt just like almost a little bit of a reset because it wasn't very long at all. It was like 30 seconds, but it was just like, hey, come
Yep.
over here, let's talk. We're gonna put you back out there because, like you said, I thought Iowa actually did a really nice job on him in the first half of kind of pushing him out, putting some length on him that really bothered him. There were several times here sitting live where you could see where it just really felt like Braden was struggling with his handle. Like the ball just kind of kept like coming out of his hand a little bit when he was trying to drive. And in the second half, we'll get more into him later, but he was just so much more decisive and getting 2 feet in the paint in the second half, which was then crashing the defense, and he was finding people, and boom, the assists fly up. And to your point, it's like I don't know what it is with Iowa because like that was there in the first half too. It
Yeah.
just for whatever reason it wasn't clicking in the first half.
No, it definitely wasn't, but that's where Shikari's able to knock down some threes. I mean, Lawyer, I don't know if one or two of his came in the first half. Both of his came in the first half. So, like, they just found other ways to overcome it, and Braden cannot afford to do that against Michigan or probably Indiana or Michigan State. But in this one, it was enough. So let's get into some of this team stats. Then we can kind of transition into some of the player breakdowns from there. Purdue 12 of 30 from three, 40%. It felt like the first time in a while where Purdue just got super hot from three. I guess the Maryland game, but that was more just Fletch going nuclear, I would say, than the totality of the team. Iowa's only 6 of 22, 27%. On the day, they're 20 of 53, 37%. Purdue 16 of 20 from the free throw line, 80%. They win the rebounding battle 38 to 30. 10 of those being offensive for Purdue and 9 for Iowa. But 15 second chance points for Purdue and only 8 for Iowa. So Purdue converting off of those. 26 points in the paint compared to 24. 13 fast break points compared to 2 for Iowa. And then 31 bench points compared to 18 for Iowa. 20 assists to 12. You kind of just go across the board and it's very quick to see like, oh yeah, Purdue just you kind of go through all the stats. It's like, oh yeah, Purdue won that one. Oh, Purdue won that one. Yep, Purdue won that one. There's probably not really a statistical category I would say that Purdue lost in this one. They tied in points off turnovers because neither team really turned the ball over like, that much, I guess. But what stands out to you, Craig?
Just domination across the board, basically. And obviously, the 3 point shooting margin in terms of percentage difference. And this one, we've talked about how difficult it's been for Purdue to win some games when they're shooting under 30%, and they pulled out a tough one the other day. But that's not the easiest thing to do. So obviously, the 3 point shooting difference plays large in this one, and plus. Really, again, just the amount of threes they've gotten up. So, how many did they get up against Nebraska? Was it 40?
46.
And 30 today, like it
Yep.
feels like that's gotta be the biggest like 2 game stretch in terms of total amount of threes that they've put up on this year. The only thing I was a little bit surprised, I wasn't totally surprised they only won rebounding by 8 because quite frankly, Nebraska was missing so many shots, and they were able to get some offensive rebounds, but or not Nebraska, Iowa. But at the same time, for me, when we're looking at that, they still win the rebound advantage. The only thing that jumped out to me is being a little bit surprising is that we didn't get more than 26 points in the paint. It really felt coming into this game that Iowa had been struggling so much defending the paint against some other teams that I thought this might be one of those games where Purdue racks up 35 or something like that in terms of paints and the points in the paint. My word, I'm struggling.
Yeah, it happens to all of us. I don't even know what I said earlier when I was trying to say what the arena name was. So, yeah, and that's like some of it is probably just how many threes Purdue got and to get to the free throw
Right.
line. But I do agree. It even when I read through the stats, it was kind of like, oh, that actually wasn't nearly as big of a difference as I was kind of expecting. Um, yeah, I don't think like I don't think there's too much else for the stats in terms of what I have. I do think we can transition it. Maybe I want to break down a little bit of the defense on the board, but I am also because the stats refreshed. This was the fourth most 3-point attempts Purdue has had this season, if I am calculating correctly. And obviously
Yeah.
Nebraska was the most. That was the most in school history when they put up 46 against them. So just to kind of circle back on that. Quickly though, before we get into some of the player breakdowns, I want to go through the board and just what I saw defensively. And like, it's not, I don't know if there was like schematic changes as much as just like, this is the upside of the Purdue defense. Um, I will also remind people like it looks a little bit better or a lot better when teams aren't making every single open three. And like, yes, you don't want to leave guys open, but like that's part of what Purdue is just going to have to do because they want to try to take away the paints. And I thought they protected the rim pretty well in this one. It becomes a lot easier when the guys who are supposed to miss threes miss threes. So basically, though, just kind of want to walk through it really quick. I think there was maybe a little bit that stood out different. So, right, we're just going O's are the defense, X's are offense. Iowa, we're gonna just go with a high pick and roll, right? High ball screen up here, balls up here, comes off the screen. Purdue's going to be in that high hedge. So that stuff's normal, and you're going to have trailer. I guess actually, even before we get there, one thing that stood out is like, and maybe they've done this more, and I just haven't noticed. It's very possible. This high hedge, it felt like whoever was guarding the ball did a good job of just sliding under instead of trying to go over. So that way, right, when the ball handler got out here, then the ball handler was actually there to meet them. But what I want to focus on more is kind of the weak side rotation. So as this high hedge happens, right? You're going to get two on the ball. This guy's just short roll. And Purdue or Iowa does a good job of hitting their short roller right here. So then basically how this looks is like the ball is here. You have a guy up here, one getting, then like this guy's trying to get back. Basically, as this is happening, this weak side corner, his defender is going to always pretty much be in the paints. I also thought there was a better job of kind of digging here. But basically, then what would happen is if the ball got like here, let's say, and he started to dribble, this guy steps up, and then this guy, he's just going to play in this gap. So then as this is happening, it's here. And then basically what you would see is like skip pass, rotate, X outs. And so what this allows is, right, remember, this is the big who is rolling. If he makes this skip pass, right, because it's 2-on-1, and I will say my illustrations, the spacing's probably a little off. This guy's probably catching it more in kind of this area. Um, but regardless, so the skip pass happens, this X out happens where he now takes the ball. He's going to fill out up here if there is that quick pass up here, but it allows the big to get back down here. So that way, as this is kind of all happening, this big here, he's going to run down into kind of try to get back into this play. So that way, right. So then remember, so big going here, this guy is going back out here. If he's going to close out like high side, then that forces baseline where then the big can be able to help. Then this guy can tag, right? And it just kind of felt like it kept working where eventually Purdue was just getting back to having the correct numbers and having the big down low. Like the few times it felt like Iowa was really able to take advantage is when like the big wouldn't be able to get back, or like this guy would jump out, the big would jump out here offensively, and then Clough or Jacobsen would like get switched onto a guard, and that guard would fill to the corner. So like I said, I don't think it's as much like schematics as more of just a good execution in this one. But it really stood out like that's what this defense wants. They want whoever's guarding the weak side corner to step up and be in the paint to help protect the rim there. And then from there, it's on whatever guards to quickly close out and kind of maintain on the perimeter to then allow time for the big to get back. Because, I mean, in this one, yeah, Iowa shot on layups, they shot 7 of 16, under 50%. So to me, that's a lot of Jacobsen and Clough being able to be in the correct positions and being able to recover. And I thought, like you said, Craig, it was just the best it's been all season long. So hopefully
Yeah.
that made some sense, but that's kind of what I wanted to go with.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody that there's a quiz at the end of the show. So if you didn't watch that, you might want to rewind real quick and watch it 2 or 3 more times because there is going to be a quiz. We're testing all of your knowledge at the end of this one. So,
There
but
it
that's a
is.
really good illustration. There's a really good illustration, Joe. And as you were talking through that in terms of, that guard on the weak side, in terms of where that skip pass is coming. I think that's kind of how CJ intercepts that one in the second
Mhm.
half, that then gets kicked to Braden, and Braden kicks to Fletch, and Fletch scores that, gets to the free throw line. I think he scored an and one. I'm not positive, but it was kind of coming at a time where Iowa was starting to just creep a little back into it, and I thought was a really important play there. But let's give a
Yeah,
shout out to
definitely.
our sponsor real quick here, Michelle Rainey, and we're gonna go with that right now. Purdue graduate and Lafayette resident since 1999, Michelle Rainey has 10 years of full-time experience working with buyers, sellers, and real estate investors in Greater Lafayette and many surrounding areas. If you need to buy, sell, invest, or even relocate, call Michelle to schedule an appointment to see how she can help you accomplish the real estate goals you have. Your home or creating an investment portfolio will likely be the most expensive transactions of your life. Have the experts with Rainey and Company at Keller Williams on your side and let Michelle navigate this process to make it easy. Call or text 765-532-3415. Again, that's Michelle Rainey with Rainey and Company at Keller Williams at 765-532-3415. I can't
Appreciate.
thank can't thank Michelle Rainey and partner at Keller Williams, BJ Rule, enough for their sponsorship of some of these shows. It's what helps me get to go on the road and interact with you fans and bring you guys a little bit of perspective from these away venues. Purdue players just left. There was, like I said, a decent contingency of Purdue fans. They've been down here for probably the last 20, 25 minutes signing autographs for fans that did come out here. A lot of Purdue fans living in Iowa, and some that went ahead and made the trip out here as well.
Yeah, shout out to them for sure. Let's get into some of the player breakdowns. Bring it up here. I'm just gonna throw it to you, like wherever you kind of want to start, we can go with, because I think this isn't one of those where it's just like 1000% obvious. So I'll just kind of let you go wherever you want.
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit of a tale of two halves to me in terms of like who we would focus on from a highlight standpoint, player wise. But I think in the first half, the two guys that just really stood out were Kaufman-Renn and Jakari Harris. And I'm going to throw it to Jakari first, right? 14 points on 4 of 7 from the field, 3 of 6 from three. I think in that first stretch, he was like 3 of 4 from three, 3 of 3 from the 3 of 3 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, just an absolute monster game from Jakari. Thought he really got things rolling and just kind of pushed it out and got the fans quieted out here. He silenced this arena a couple of times and helped Purdue push that lead out, and it just never really got close or uncomfortable again for Purdue. And I mean, I just there is no part of Jakari's game today that I thought like I could even point to as a slight negative. He was great defensively. He was great shooting from outside. He attacked the rim in transition. I'm sure that play is going to get talked about later, depending on which one of us gets to pick first. But really nice dunk for the and one. Just really nice all the way around from Jakari. So I think that's where it has to start.
I agree, and I am glad you went there, because I think I, like a lot of players contributed in lots of ways. I think what he did with the in the time that he did it, with pretty early in the game, really just helped break everything open. And like we talked about, Braden was not playing great at that point. Um, Purdue as in total was what, 1 of 6 from three, or one of something like that, 1 of 6 or so from three to start, kind of before Jakari took off, or 1 of 5, something like that. So it's not like Purdue was firing on
Uh,
all cylinders from
he
the start.
he hit their first one,
Oh,
or
so
at least
okay, so yeah, they were
that's what I had noted on my sheet anyway. Yep.
okay. So yeah, exactly. Like he was the one that just kind of opened the floodgates, and he ends up not playing much in the second half, like 7 minutes, and that's just because we'll talk about CJ in a sec, because he went nuclear. But that's what you want from those two guards, is that ability. And yeah, I got nothing to nitpick with Jakari too. Like this was his best game of his career. Um, And even looking through, like it looks like it's his career high in points, unless I am missing a game somewhere and overlooking it, which is possible. But career high in points, like you said, I thought the defense was great. I thought the defensive energy and intensity. He ends with 3 steals in the game. Crashed the glass hard, was super efficient everywhere on the floor. Had the monster dunk that just kind of popped out of nowhere. It felt like. I like him dunking, because that is something he struggled with, is kind of interior finishing, I think, at times. And it becomes a little bit easier, I guess, when you just decide you're going to poster everybody. So, I mean, just an overall great game from Jakari. I don't know. Maybe this dude just likes shooting on the road. I guess I don't know because we brought it up last time. He was like 50%. He's like 50% from three on the
Really.
road and 17 or something like that at home. I don't know. He likes silencing crowds, I guess. And just yeah, I with Jakari's game, right? We're never gonna be like, oh man, he was making like these complicated reads or like really like attacking these certain things. He's somebody who just takes what is given to him in his role. And today it was knocking out some open threes, get on transition, play great defense, and I mean he did it as well as he's ever done it in a Purdue uniform.
Yeah, and you almost wonder. Look, I love Purdue fans. I do, and Purdue fans are great. Mackey is an absolute great environment. Um, a couple of things I've just noticed as I start to travel around the country. Sometimes I feel like Purdue fans, when the team is struggling or when a player is struggling, sometimes I notice more from road fans when I'm gone that they'll like rally around the team a little bit more and like start cheering to try to get the team going. Whereas it feels like our fans sometimes, and not all fans, are like waiting for the other way around. Like they wait for something to happen to really try to push the team to get going. And like we all know, if you sit Mackie and somebody's struggling, you hear that like loud collective groan from
Yeah.
like 15,000 people when you miss a shot again. So you almost wonder, is like Jakari just more comfortable on the road because he feels the weight, of Mackie on him when he's not hitting shots or something like that. Who knows? It probably doesn't mean anything, but just something I thought of from that standpoint. I'm a Purdue fan too, Rick. It's Rick is Mortitz. Yes, I don't forget. I'm a Purdue fan, 100%. I just don't get to cheer from media row whatsoever. But let's jump to Trey next because we hear Painter talk a lot about um, it's not just what you do, it's when you do it. And a lot of times he's talking about when you win games, like how good the other team is playing. But the same thing holds true with end game. And like you said, like Jakari did it like when this game was still tight and really pushed them up. And to the same degree from a rebounding standpoint, I thought Trey set that tone when it still mattered early on in this game. Finishes with 12 points, 5 of 8 from the field. Feels like the points more came in the second half. I could be wrong on that. You can correct me if I am. 2 of 2 from the free throw line. 3 offensive rebounds, 9 defensive rebounds, 12 rebounds total. 11 of those 12 came in the first half. I thought he was just throwing his body around, but doing it in a way where he wasn't getting those silly foul calls that we've seen sometimes. Was being ultra aggressive and just showing like I am the most physical guy out here on the floor. And again, just to me, just absolutely set the tone of the aggression that needed to be played with if Purdue was going to do what they should do against this Iowa team, which is at least kind of beat them with a double-digit type of game.
Yeah, like, and in terms of setting the tone, the rebounding obviously is a big thing. He scored the first two buckets for Purdue. He did not score the last one, or he did not then score again until the last play of this first half. But I mean, he does score the first two plays. I thought he was aggressive in those looks early, and then Iowa kind of had to adjust a bit and really try to take him away in the post. But yeah, like right last game he had 19 boards and we're never going to expect that like that'll never be uh the baseline, right? But we look back and like I just kind of keep going through. Like he was in that area where we would all say he was struggling. It was like 2 boards, 3 boards. Then he had 7 against UCLA, 2 against Illinois, 3 against Indiana. But then the last 4 now, and I think I did the same exact exercise in the last post game show. 10 rebounds against Maryland, 8 against Oregon, 19 against Nebraska, 12 against Iowa. When we talk about right that players only meeting after Indiana, I am sure there is some part of like there was probably some mention of like hustle and getting on the glass and things like that. And TKR has definitely taken that to heart. Clough too, and we'll talk about him in a sec, but he TKR is leading this team, at least with his play on the floor, in a way I just never expected to coming into this season, right? We expected TKR to be a leader. But we figured it would be 18 to 22 points a game, and some way you could just get you 30 on a random nights. But it is just like being crazy high energy, crazy effective on the glass when he is on, and help setting the tone that way. And again, credit to him for being willing to evolve into that role, because I think as Purdue fans do a good job of kind of recognizing the effort and that goes into it, but it's like, just from a psychological standpoint, it's not an easy thing to go from a 20 points per game guy to, I don't know what he is this year, like 12, 13, something like that. Um, but being more important than anywhere, just being on the glass. So can't say enough good things about him in this one. 12.4 points is what he's averaging per game, but almost 9 rebounds a game currently. So that's just kind of what he's been able to do. I thought defensively he was another guy who was good kind of in those rotations, helping protect the rim some. And like, TR just, man, he just goes after the ball. Like, he doesn't try to like knock people over, but he basically is just like, if he has any gap, he is just going to barrel right to where he wants to get to go after the ball. It doesn't, if he's ripping it from Clough, he doesn't care. Like, he's just going to go up. He is going to go get the ball.
Yeah. And again, really impressive. Want to see it continue. Got to be the toughest test from a rebounding standpoint on that game on Tuesday. I'm not saying their name yet. I was mad at you for saying their name earlier because I'm enjoying a 4-game winning streak. I'm enjoying 2 big wins on the road, and I don't want to think about it until I have to do the show with you at 2 o'clock tomorrow or 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So we're just gonna act like they don't exist for another like 12 hours here or so. But um, can I go to my guy next? Do
Yep.
I get to go to my guy? All right.
Yes.
You mentioned it, second half CJ. I think in the first half, I don't remember if he got that little blob layup in the first half or if that was
He
right at the
did.
start of the second. Okay. But outside of that, really hadn't contributed much offensively. And we haven't seen this like quick outburst type of game in a little while. Maybe Memphis down in Bahamas. This one felt even quicker though. This felt like that or Alabama game last year, right? Where he just like rattled off some points really, really quick. And he hit a couple of those threes and then he missed one. And I was like, okay, he's done. Nope. Just hit 2 more in pretty quick succession after that as well. Hopefully, we've talked about the fact that kind of quietly he'd been in a slump the same time that Fletcher was in that slump. So hopefully this breaks him out of that. 4-9 from 3, 5-10 from the field, 14 points, 2 rebounds, 1 steal in this one as well. Does all of that in just 20 minutes tonight and, finishes plus 18 on the floor tonight. I know plus minus is not like the greatest indicator, but that's second best on the team tonight. So, and I didn't even mention the defense. Like that may be for look, Purdue's defense is not going to go to me necessarily as CJ and Jakari go because they're going to be pretty good most nights. It's what everybody else is doing, what they're doing in rotation, everything right, like that. But it starts with CJ and Jakari because they've got the most important assignment every single night. And I just thought he was really, really good in that regard.
Yeah, and I mean, it's impressive even with the shot making, because like he played 6 minutes in the first half because he got in foul trouble. Like, he got picked up 2 early fouls, comes out, Jakari goes off, so then obviously Jakari's going to get more of the closing minutes. And then that switched when CJ started going nuts in the second half. But um, his ability to then quickly just get going early in the second half. I mean, right away too. Like, I'm gonna trying to peruse kind of back through the game log. Like, it wasn't, I guess, immediate. It looks like, but 3-4 minutes in, just knocking down a few right away. In that stretch, and like you said, the defense. I thought he did better, and I highlighted it a little bit on the board. I thought him and Jakari both, and it really, I mean, Braden could probably get thrown in that too a bit, of like, did better of navigating screens, but by cheating under, or like going over the screen part, but then sliding under Clough or Jacobsen. Like, I think there's been times where they'll almost go over and get tunnel vision and then kind of collide into Clough and Jacobsen. And I think today they did such a good job of like, and some of that too is because of Clough, like, it all works together, right? Because Clough and Jacobsen hedge out well enough, it opens up the sliver for CJ and Jakari to then slide under them as they're going over the screen. Now they're not getting caught. And when the big retreats, then CJ and Jakari are right in the right spot instead of still being able to trying to trail and chase. So I do think that was a very, very good effort. It obviously all works together, but you still have to do your parts. And CJ did all of that today. So nothing but praise from me for him in this one. You got anything else on CJ? Because if not, I'll go to the next player.
No, go to the
All right,
next player.
let's go. Let's talk about Braden Smith. I think uh, not too often that we probably talk about him fourth or fifth or whatever. Does end the game 5 points on 1 of 5 shooting, 7 rebounds, 12 assists, a steal, and a turnover in 36 minutes. I at one point was joking, or I don't know if joking, but I was just like, Braden's gonna get 10 rebounds and 10 assists and not get the points. Like that's what this felt like kind of at the second half, when Purdue kind of had it out of reach and you could start box score watching a little bit. I was like, he's gonna get a double double with no points and never get a triple double, but never gets the rebounds there. We talked about it a bit to start. The first half just wasn't Braden. And I mean, in the first half, he has, I'll pull up the splits, 1 point on 0 of 3 shooting, 4 assists and a turnover and 2 rebounds. And then in the second half, only 4 points, but 5 rebounds, 8 assists, no turnovers, and a steal. It just felt like, obviously we don't know like what's going through his head and all that, so it's speculation and stuff, but like it just felt like he wasn't focused in the first half, to be honest to me. Like it felt like he was maybe the one guy kind of just, I don't want to say going through the motions, because I do think he was still like in the game, but more of that where, right, Jakari comes out with a ton of energy. TKR's hitting the glass hard. Fletch knocks down, I mean, he missed his first 2 threes, but then he knocks down a couple. Like it felt like pretty much everybody was kind of clicking aside from him in the first half. And then in the second half, he flips the switch. I thought even from like, I made some notes just like right away in the second half, it felt like he just opened up. I mean, I think, does he get I don't know if he gets a steal in there. I thought he made a couple good defensive plays early on, gets a couple assists, gets a fast break bucket. So I do think he did. It was impressive how quickly he was able to flip the switch in the second half. You just obviously with how good Braden is, we're gonna ignore that he had 12 assists and 1 turnover because it's Braden Smith, and that's almost just what you expect. And I know he'll probably hold himself to a higher standard too. So one of those weird games where it's like at the end of the day, his box score isn't terrible by any means, and some would say very good. But when you watch the game, it's just like, oh yeah, for 20 minutes he just wasn't there, and then for 20 minutes he was, one of the best players in the country again.
Yeah, and just I mean, such a similar script to to the first game, except
Yeah,
you know you had a whole bunch of other guys hitting threes in this one. You had a whole bunch of the other guys getting their shot in this one. So I think obviously um, just a totally different tone. Like you said, I made a note too in mine. Just completely different aggression coming out of the gate in that second half. I don't know if anything changed there defensively, Joe. You can speak to it if it was, but I just thought he did a better job of being more decisive in what he wanted to do, turning the corner and getting 2 feet in the paint. He drove baseline multiple times. Yeah, I think maybe the three that got CJ going. CJ's first one might have been a blob. I don't remember, but um, CJ kind of replaces, right? So guy cuts, moves, CJ replaces at the top of the key. Braden is completely under the basket and hits him with a bullet pass where he hits that three. I don't remember if that was his first one or second one, but I thought that really kind of got CJ going. But I just thought he was so much more decisive and crisp in everything that he was wanting to do in the second half.
yeah, it just felt like he was able to get downhill more. Like I don't know if there was schematics. There very well could be that I could have missed. It did feel just like he was just came out and was just like, all right, no, I'm gonna do my thing now. Like nobody can stop. I think they got him out in space a little bit more, and even with a little bit of tempo. I would have to. I guess the possessions are probably gonna be. I mean, this was a really slow game. 57 possessions total in this one. Um, I think if Purdue, like the first 10 minutes of the first half or the second half, I would bet Purdue had like 60% of their second half possessions, if that makes sense. Like the first 10 minutes felt a lot faster, and I think that helped open up Braden a little bit too. So obviously nobody's worried about Braden. He still puts up 12 assists and 1 turnover in this game. Like, he's a to that player or to that caliber of player where you just expect more, and that's kind of where we're at. And yeah, I got nothing else. We can move on to the next player. I guess we can. I don't know. We'll go to Fletch. 12 points, 3 of 7 from the field, 2 of 5 from three, 3 assists. It was good. I mean, I think he missed his first 2 shots, if I remember correctly, and then I think he hit his next 2 threes. I don't got much on Fletch. He knocked down a few shots, was good, which was good. I thought the defense was like there was no single play that stood out in terms of negative defensively. Um, Continues to kind of make some good reads with his passing. I don't know. It was a Fletch game, like just a solid Fletch game.
Yeah, no, I actually looked up at some point and he had 11 points there, and I was just like, wait, what? Fletch is
Yeah,
in double figures? Like I was not prepared for that, did not realize it. And then just solid game, right? And shooting continues to be fine, 50% from three on this one. Did get aggressive and get downhill. He did get a fouled on a three as well, which I thought was really smart. I thought there was a couple of plays where when Iowa started to creep back in just a little bit, he did something to kind of just calm everything, and he shot fakes. I think he gets Manuel off his feet and draws that foul on a 3-point attempt and just walks up and quietly knocks three down and pushes that lead back to 20 again. And we've seen them do that 100 times, but it again, it's timing, right? It's a timing of the moment, knowing what's there and just like, hey, I'm gonna put my body in harm's way. Let's go get 3 easy ones.
yep. Couldn't agree more there. Let's jump to Clough. I don't. I think the rest of the player. I want to spend a little bit of time on Jacobsen, but we'll get to Clough. Round out the starters. A game that his stat line isn't like anything to write home about, but still was solid. 4 points, 1 of 1 from the field, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, and a steal in 20 minutes. He also did get into some foul trouble in the first half. Also had the play of the game that won't count and his 3 point heave that just, I mean, if he had probably another tenth of a second, it's probably good. Um, I don't know. Like, I think to me, this game, like, this was still a good Clough game. There was nothing like when the we had some of the previous Clough games where maybe he was putting up 4 points and 3 rebounds. It felt to me like he was running away from the fight a little bit. I didn't think that at all in this one. I thought he was physical. I thought he was aggressive. I think TKR ripped a couple boards from his hands, which skews the numbers a little bit. Nothing to be upset about in terms of rooting for Purdue, though. Made some good reads from kind of the post and short roll when he got there. I don't know, just a solid overall Clough game. And if this is, I don't know, if this is like a C minus game from Clough, like it's still a pretty good game overall.
Yeah, and I was kind of with you. I felt like he was playing a pretty solid game, and I went and looked at the stat line. With maybe like 5 minutes left in the second half, and I was like, wait, what? Like those are his numbers. Like I feel like Clough has played really well in this one, and I'd have to go back and watch, but I felt like there were multiple times where he kept the ball alive that somebody else got. Like he
Yes.
carved out
Yes.
space and he tipped once, maybe twice, and then CJ gets it, Jakari gets it, Braden gets it, whoever. And that doesn't show up in the box score, right? He had that one monster block in this one too, where it looked
Yes.
like the guy was going right down the middle of the lane on him. So, no, I thought Clough was good. I don't think there's any like I don't know, hyperboles we need to throw out over this one, but I just thought it was a really solid game where he did match aggression and physicality most of the time in this game. It just wasn't a high stat game for him.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I do think I'm glad you brought up the block too. I thought in general his rim protection was good, even just making shots tough. And same will be said about Jacobsen in just a few seconds when we talk about him. But yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the tip outs because I did make a note of that too. Of like there was a few where it's just like even Clough and Jacobsen both. It was just like they're not getting that credited for that rebound, but like that rebound does not happen without them. And so again, even if you can't get two hands on it, just trying to get a hands, tip it out, especially against an Iowa team that isn't a team that really wants to run. Very impressive effort there. We'll go to the other big and Daniel Jacobsen, 6 points and 2 of 5 shooting, 2 of 4 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds and 3 blocks in 20 minutes of play. Another game where or player where I thought he played better than his stat line showed. And I guess the overall stats are going to be skewed a bit just because there were so few possessions in this game. Just looking, this was, yeah, 58 possessions, which is tied for the lowest for any Purdue game this year. But I thought, like, even coming in, this just felt like a good matchup for him where he can get out in space, he can catch a couple lobs, he can be a real threat at the rim for even if it isn't lobs, like just dump offs. I thought he was aggressive on the glass. I thought he was really, really good protecting the rim. Like this is right. We know at this point Jacobsen's going to be game to game. We'll see. Like some games are going to be his, some games aren't going to be his. But I do think this was one of those games where it flashed like long term. It's like, oh yeah, he can be like an elite rim protector. He had 3 blocks. I would say he probably affected 8 or 9, where teams just either missed or didn't really want to go at him. So I was really, really impressed with him on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, my only thing, and I thought he had a solid game, but like you're 7'5", stay down on your feet on some of those where you're like way under the rim, and he's just like little hop step chase, little hop step chase, like he's as a guy's like pump faking and whatnot, and then it's like, oh, he got him, he got DJ, like up in the air, and I just think it's really really important, and I have to remember, I have to remind myself of this is like it didn't always look the most like fluid and smooth Zach's freshman year either. Like some of it just looks
Sure.
awkward and some of it is getting down. And I remember that first year, like guards coming over to Zach and being like, stay on your feet, brother. You're 7'4". And I'd like to have a counter on the year of how many times Fletch has gone over to Jacobsen and done that motion, gone like
Yeah.
this, like just wall up, buddy. But he'll get there, man. He'll get there, and I do think when we see him in games where he gets more minutes, he just gets more comfortable, and everything looks better. Everything looks smoother. He gets more comfortable at the free throw line, where he's been pretty good. And I think, next year as he just gets more run, unless Clough comes back, as he gets more run, or whether that possibility exists for him to come back, I should say. I think it's all just going to come together a lot nicer.
Yeah. It like there's a lot of reason to believe that he is going to be very, very good long term. And yeah, he is still a full freshman or a redshirt freshman. He's going to need time to develop still. Like that's just kind of where he's at. The last 2 guys, I'm gonna just group them, and then if there's individual things you want to talk about, go for it. Benner, he ends with 5 points on 2 of 4 shooting, knocked down a 3, had an assist and a turnover. Meyer, 6 points, 2 of 6 from the field, 2 of 5 from three, a rebound, an assist, and a turnover. I'll throw it to you, kind of wherever you want to go about either of them.
Sorry, you said Jack and who else? Somebody was
Meyer,
blocking my attention here. Meyer. I kind of want to talk about him individually. So, um, I thought Jack was pretty solid all the way around in this one. Hits the three. I think he gets another block. Oh, one thing we got to say, shout out to Sasha. He friggin' killed it in this game on baselines out of bounds
yes,
plays. Like I
yeah,
think they scored on at least 5 in this one, and Benter was the recipient of one of those two. But the thing that just keeps jumping out to me with Benner, and I thought he was pretty solid defensively in this one, but that's not where I'm going with this, is his ability to catch, rip, and go, and just put the ball on the floor and make reads and decisions in the moment. Now he did have the one turnover today, but I think like that's really hard for other fours to guard. It just really is. And I think he's just becoming more and more comfortable with it. My play of the game in this one had the person taking the shot and hit the shot. He drives from the wing, gets into the paint or just before the paint, maybe beats his man, defensive scrambling. It looks like he's making an easy pass to the corner. And the guy was open. And as he kind of jumped in the air on that one too, I think. And the guy at the wing, opposite wing, starts to stunt over to the guy in the corner, and he like throws a curveball one-handed, like over to the other wing. And I'm just like, wait, what? Where'd that ball go? And I'm not sure that the guy even shot it. It might have been Fletch. I'm not even sure he shot it. But that was gonna be my pass of the game. Had it happen.
yeah. I don't have too much more on Benner. I kind of echo everything you say. I do think like again, even if the shot's not falling in, he does knock one down today. Like he came in and I don't know if it was it was one of the very first defensive possessions he had where it's like Purdue kind of got out of rotation and he just kind of flies over from the weak side and just makes the correct recovery, protects the rim. Like, and it's just he's somebody that is going to do those little things.
Yeah.
Make the he's gonna make the passes, like you said. Like he's just somebody that can get some of those, just with his right. He played point guard in high school. Like he has some of that naturally instinct to him. And I think it applies to defense too, where he just kind of knows where to be. I think that's why he's so good at taking charges. Is he just knows where he needs to be at all times. And then any of the shooting is just kind of the cherry on top. And it was good to see him knock one down in this one. Did you have anything on Meyer? I read off his stat line.
Yeah, I mean, my only thing, I think we saw the good and the bad in Meyer today to some degree. It felt like there were more pull-up shots today than we've seen in quite some time. Like I said, I think especially from the three-point line, I just like him a lot better as a catch and shoot guy rather than hitting those unless it's late shot clock. I do think some of them came in the second half as they were starting to try to bleed the clock down, and then they just kind of ISO'd him and let him try to get to a pull-up jump shot. But he hits that corner three out of the blob. Um, I there's a piece of me that feels like his chemistry with Jacobsen is better than Smith sometimes. Not on the lobs. Like I think Braden's better throwing that lob. But there's sometimes where like if you watch the pass get delivered, it feels like Smith and Jacobsen at times struggle just with like him getting the ball how he wants it delivered to him so he doesn't mishandle the ball. And I sometimes almost feel like Meyer and Jacobsen have this connection. Like they're both playing their first year of basketball, developed that connection. Did a really nice job of just calling Jacobsen up when it was getting towards the end of a shot clock in the first half and just having DJ set a high ball screen and then roll to the rim where he pinned his man underneath, delivering it where Jacobsen wanted it, where he could easily turn and get a dunk in that one. So I thought it was really good from there. Um, am I the only one that thinks like he's got to be really careful? A lot of times he'll kind of pull the ball back like he's going to throw a one-handed pass. And if it's not there, he puts the ball back on the floor. Like, is he in danger of getting a carry call there? Because there was a couple today where I'm like, I don't know how they didn't call that a carry.
He did last game, right? Was it last game or 2 games ago? He got called for a carry
Maybe.
on that like exact thing. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think that is like he has a looser handle for sure. Um,
Yeah.
and at times it's good because it gives him the time to process that he needs. Like he just needs that extra bit of time, I think, right now to process what's going on. But it is a double-edged sword where, like you said, it can kind of turn into a carry. I like you calling out the chemistry with Jacobsen. I did note that play that you described also. Maybe it is something where just like I assume Myers never played with a 7'3" plus guy. And Braden played with Edie for multiple years. Like there could natural like Myers molding how he plays with any 7-footer based purely on what he's doing now with Jacobsen, where Braden obviously had Edie for a few years. So I think there is something to that. Also, like there could just be a better understanding of like Meyer knowing what Jacobsen can and can't catch right now. Like that was the thing with Edie, especially by the time his senior year rolled around. It's
Yeah.
just like just whip the ball near him, and Edie was just going to catch it. And I don't think Jacobsen's there yet. Like you also said earlier, like Edie wasn't there his freshman year, so things can develop. But I think those are
Yeah.
very good points.
I know we're
Yeah,
gonna
you
get
know,
to starred comments in a moment, but I did star this one around this because it says I'd got this minimized right now. Scott White said Omer is not the player we were sold. My question would be who was selling it to you and who were you listening to? Because I feel like we were pretty measured. The very first show we did when we signed, and we had just only had time to process the highlights. We were really, really, really high on what he could potentially do this year. But I think if you listen to our breakdowns over the summer, we were really trying to get people to pump the brakes a little bit on, especially the scoring side of it and like shooting efficiency side of it. There's going to be things he's going to be able to do coming in this one. As that narrative was running, we were trying, I feel like, to get people to just pump the brakes on the overhyped expectations there. So just wanted to mention that as well. But
I
are we ready
think
for?
I just
Go ahead.
want to I have something for that too. Like I think the year four expect or multiple year expectations, like those are still going to be there. I think
Yep.
what happens this offseason and um right, you get enamored with FIBA stats and highlights, and sometimes you have to take a step back and be like, okay, who's the actual competition? I do think there was some like national stuff. Like you saw Meyer pop up on random like top 100 lists and things like that. And like if that's what you were expecting, yeah. And I think again, Meyer can get there. Like long term, I think Meyer absolutely can get there. But yeah, once you kind of dove down into the film a little bit, it's like, okay, there's a lot to like. There's also a lot to be like, yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. And I mean, I think he's even said, right, part of why he came here was to try to learn under Braden and Painter and everybody. Like he understood he had a long ways to go too. We've seen some of the flashes, and honestly, that's the biggest thing to me. Like with his development this year is like we've seen the flashes. If we didn't see any of the flashes, I'd be a lot more concerned about long term. But we've seen them. I think he can get there. It's just going to take some time, and hopefully, some of the flash comes in. You know, the Sweet 16 or something like that. That would be my hope. So, player of the game, game ball, play of the game, because we call it player of the game and game ball every single time. Um, I'm just gonna take game ball first, and I'm gonna give it to Jakari. I think what he did in the first half really opened up, like I said, what Purdue was able to do. He was the Ken Pom MVP for anybody that keeps track of that in this one. In a game where it was very balanced scoring, which kind of helps his case. But highly efficient, great defense. Did it in a game where or a stretch where he opened it up, so he gets my game ball.
Yeah, I'm giving mine to Trey, and I'm not going to make the case again because I've already kind of done it a couple of times during this
Yep.
show. But I thought he was just super, super impactful. That takes me to play of the game. Man, I really wanted to have the second play of the game, but I'm still going to do it because I thought I'm gonna highlight defense because this was as much
Wait
as I want to
before
throw it.
we'll just throw this out because I know what your
Okay,
salty beast says. Play of the game was the dunk by Harris. We'll give that play of the game to the chat,
yeah,
because
okay.
it was a big time highlight.
Big time highlight. Monster play that I think really got things just energized for this Purdue basketball team in a road environment. But I thought this was by far and away Purdue's most impressive defensive game. So I'm going to stick to the defensive side of the ball here. And I'm also going with Jakari. There's a play in transition. I don't even remember which Iowa player had the ball, but he hustles back, manages to get in front of the guy, jumps vertically, keeps his arms vertical, forces the miss at the rim. And this was in the second 10-minute stretch of the game. When Purdue was trying to push the lead out, things were not by any means settled at this point yet. And I thought that just exemplified the defensive effort of a lot of guys tonight. But especially for a guy who ends up with multiple steals, I'm going to throw it to him for that defensive play.
I think I like that one. I have a couple starred. I'm okay. The play of the game to me is the Smith, where so pick and roll happens, short roll gets hit, Iowa rotates, ball gets kicked out, and Brain just drives baseline. You see him just kind of drift out of bounds, and just whip this pass to CJ, who is wide open at the top of the key. It's one of those passes where honestly I thought he was going corner because I thought that was just kind of the easy pass, and the guy would have been pretty open, whoever it even was in the corner. But instead, he actually just right as Braden Smith, so he whips it to the top of the key, gets CJ wide open, and CJ was able to knock it down. You kind of the other two I had started. I just want to call them out quick. You already kind of highlighted it, but like the Jacobsen dunk on the roll for Meyer, that was with Braden in the game where Meyer dictated the offense. He said, "No, Jacobsen, come here. I want this. I know I'm going to get this." He got that, and then the one that made me just chuckle was the baseline out of bounds play where Braden, this actually, I think it was Jay Collins 13 brings it up as right as I'm talking about it too. Just the baseline out of bounds play where Braden just passes it to CJ, and it made me laugh because you saw the like CJ's defender didn't even know that CJ was shooting till like the ball was in the air, like after CJ had shot it. He was just standing there like he was probably wondering like why is nobody moving for this play. And he looks up and sees that the ball's like already in the net. So I wanted to call that one out too
Yeah.
because it made me laugh. So
All
couple
right,
start
let's
comments
go to
unless you got something.
yeah, let's bring
Yeah.
Casey's up first. This is so I can tell people this is why we're going to move through these really quickly. We are on this trip in Iowa, and Casey's asking me. I rode with Casey. Actually, I drove Casey while he was sleeping, asking if it is time to party yet. So we're going to roll through these here pretty quickly.
Yeah, let's get into them. Blake Widmer says, question for Joe. Did you see us do anything differently on Combs today? Did we not leave him as much? He had 0 points on 0 of 5 shooting. Without like specifically remembering all the plays, I think calling back to some of the just the defensive rotations were better, where even Like Combs, I know he missed one or two like completely wide open where Purdue just left him, but also like sometimes you just we right, our brains are wired where we remember bad variants. Like that's just what's going to stick with us more than anything. Right, we remember Combs knocking down four threes because he's not supposed to. There is the other side too, where sometimes dudes just miss shots and like maybe they're supposed to make them. Like Combs, I think missed two floaters from like 4 feet away. He missed a completely wide open three. So there is that aspect too. And sometimes I know it's doesn't feel like it, especially as Purdue fans. But variance does swing the other way at times. It's just our brains aren't wired to remember the good. It's only kind of wired to remember the bad, unfortunately. Matt Spurgeon said, just stopped in to tell Joe to quit rooting for opposing players. I think that's in reference to, made a tweet about Trevin Urich, who is one of my favorite freshmen coming into this season. I'm very high on him long term. Basically, just I started this one because I just wanted to call it like basically outside of this specific show, like I am I consider myself more of like a Big Ten and college basketball like reporter and analyst, in which case I don't like to show like the Purdue fandom as much. Obviously, there's some natural bleed over, but that's like I'm trying to build a brand, and I think being a Purdue homer everywhere over there is not good for the brand. So that's where that comes from. And just love basketball, and then I get to have this show where I get to come on and talk about how great Purdue is. So it's a good balance for me, and I just want to call that out because that's kind of just where I'm at with everything. Derek Mulkin, honestly, did you hear Joe quiz every post game would be a fun ending segment? Maybe that is something we can think about moving forward, for sure. Rickus Mortis, sounds like we need to get you paint crew tickets, Craig. I think that was in reference to
Yeah.
the home crowd or whatever. If you got something, you got it.
Yeah, like that I can't cheer or whatever, sitting on media row or whatever, or maybe it was reference to the home crowd. But my daughter's in paint crew, so I'll let her handle that. Okay.
There it is. I do miss being in the paint crew. That was a lot of fun. Scott White said, "Play of the game slash not play of the game is the Clef 3." 100%. That was just one of those just like, oh, okay. Unfortunately, it gets waved off. Kyle Thomas
That would have been
says, "If
his first attempt of the year,
yes,"
and it would have been a
he would
make.
have
He would
just
have been
drilled it.
100% from 100% from three on the year. We saw him hit him in practice. Like he takes a little while on the wind up, but he can hit them.
Yeah, just never really in the spot. One of those with how good he's an offensive rebounder he is
Yeah,
too. It's like it's a double detriment where
yeah.
you don't mind TKR taking a few just because then Clough's down there. But Kyle Thomas, if we can go 2-0 next week, does that put us back in the race for a 1 seed? Um, like yes, for sure. Because yeah, the win against Michigan would be tough. It definitely wouldn't like even if Purdue goes 2-0, I think Michigan still controls kind of their fate for the 1 seed overall, which would be the Midwest
Yeah,
region.
yeah.
They have even like wins above bubble, which I think is again the single best metric for bracketology that we have. Like they're clearly ahead of number two Duke, and there is a good gap from UConn to number five, which is Houston. Purdue's up to number six in that too. So it's definitely like 2 wins next week is definitely a big step forward to getting a 1 seed. I think even just more, I don't know, more importantly, but like it would also at worst put them in the driver's seat for the top 2 seed, I think, which could then mean the Midwest, which there's part of me that's almost would rather have
I
the
want
two
that.
seed in the Midwest, but than the 1 seed in the
Yeah.
West. But that's not the conversation for today for that part specifically. Did you have anything on the bracketology side?
Yeah, and wins above bubble, I think agree with you. I think it's probably the best metric that people should look at for seeding. I don't know that everybody actually does look at it as much as they should. That's on the seeding committee, but anyway, in relation to that, I'm with you. I think that puts them in a position as a potential 1 seed. It would not shock me at all if two Big Ten teams could pull off a 1 seed. Primarily, and some other people brought this up. I tried to highlight it on Twitter again this week, but like Duke, UConn, some of these other teams are just not going to have near the amount of opportunities that Purdue has for wins that can really catapult them up. They're going to have more opportunities for things that, if they did lose, could drop them down more.
Yeah, and I will bring up too, like if Purdue goes 2-0, Michigan, their next week is a very fun week of basketball. I'm excited to watch at Purdue, and then they play Duke on Saturday. So there is one of those teams has to lose between Michigan and Duke, which also is another at least slight positive for Purdue, even if I don't think it's a loss is going to be detrimental to either of them. Derek Mulliken says, every time Joe says things like that, I think of Damon Darling. The real ones will know. I started this because I was just like, I didn't know if you're a real one and knew, because I don't.
I have no idea who Damon Darling is.
We're not, neither of us are real ones, but I wanted to start that just in case you were. Salty B88 said, any quick thoughts on Caden Pierce, or did you do a separate show on that? Didn't do a separate show. My thoughts is I haven't really watched any film. I mean, I've inadvertently watched film of him from like their Princeton run, the tourney run a couple years ago. And they've played Rutgers a couple times. Like I have watched it, but never focused. My thought is like some of the stats are interesting. I'm curious, like, it probably depends on what Purdue fans think the expectations are. When I just kind of look at the stats in that, like, if the expectations is for him to be like a fifth starter type or fourth starter or sixth man, I think I'm on board with that. I think if the expectation is for him to be like a superstar, I'm not going to be on board probably with that. But I also have to watch the film, and my opinions are very capable of changing.
Yeah, I haven't watched an absolute ton on him yet. I mean, to me, he fits kind of in that four model that's relatively similar to Jack, but maybe a little bit more size, maybe a little bit more attribute of back to the basket type stuff a little bit. But I haven't got into the film a whole bunch. Decent 3-point shooter, probably not as high potential of 3-point shooter as Jack, but a guy that scored 16 points a game as a sophomore, played most of his junior year with an ankle injury that kind of slowed him down, and some of those numbers dropped off a little bit. But the main thing I've said to people who have asked me this week since it's happened, Joe, is the same thing as you. Do not look at him or expect him to be like the alpha on this team from a scoring
Yeah.
standpoint. I think he's going to be likely a starter. Maybe Jack moves to the 3 next year. I think he's likely a starter, but think he's in that 4th, 5th, 3rd spot from a scoring standpoint probably next year.
Yeah, and again, we both have to watch film. We'll do a show on him this
Yep.
offseason. But yeah, for somewhere in that role, and then maybe he is somebody that can pop on any random game and go give you 20. So that's kind of the thoughts there. For anybody that doesn't know, Purdue did get a commit from Caden Pierce. He is sitting out this season at Princeton, finishing. I mean, what a move from him. He sits out this year, finishes his degree at Princeton, and then he's going to go use his last year of eligibility at Purdue. So we'll have content out on him after the season, hopefully after celebrating a Purdue Final Four and national championship. So they did not do that, win the national championship today, but it was a step getting back on track into what is, we are hoping, a fun. I mean, it's a month until the tournament starts pretty much. I think we're like 6.5 weeks from crowning a champ. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure to tune into the preview show against Michigan tomorrow. They play Michigan Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be live shortly after that. Hit the like button, subscribe on the way out. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you all in the